Saturday Night Live alum, 5-time Emmy Award winner for his tremendous Dennis Miller Live show. Also, a couple of years in the booth of Monday Night Football. His new special on comedy dynamics, Fake News, Real Jokes, is available on Amazon, iTunes, Steam, Google Play, and several other platforms. You can check on his adorable, deplorable tour dates. In a short moment, we will get to that. But right now, I turn and find Dennis Miller here in the flesh.
Ricardo, nice to be here with you. I think we're shooting out at the end of the tarmac that they had the final scene in Michael Mann's magnum opus Heat.
Right
where,
here in El Segundo.
Was chased on. Do you remember Tom Sizemore has the best line in there where De Niro explains to him how tough the next gig is going to be. And he says, you go home. You don't want this. You've got a family. He does that whole De Niro thing. And Sizemore takes that long beat and he looks up at me. Hey, for me, the action is the juice. It's like so beautiful.
That's what this setup reminds you of?
That's what it reminds me of right here. And by the way, congrats on that Halloween costume. Very, very few dads will go out as Abe Gibron anymore.
It was Mr. Incredible, Dennis.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was former Chicago Bear coordinator.
No, there I am right there. There I am, rocking it right behind the wheel of the car.
Sort of a D. Andros, the great pumpkin look.
That's what I was going for. That's what I was going for. How you been? How's it going?
I'm groovy, man. This is a nice scene.
Thanks,
Got
man.
nice kids here, and I just saw your picture of your real kids.
My kids in the back there.
The boy who got his first set of glasses almost made me cry.
Man. That's what it was. That's what it was.
They turn into Harry Potter. They do.
I know. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So, you're watching a little bit more football these days?
And you know what, Rich?
To?
Here you should admit when you didn't see something. Listen, football is always going to be a violent game, but it just is. The neurosis about that bothers me. When trying to make it the completely safe violent game, it seems like a fool's errand. If a young man has worked his whole life to get bulked up and loves to rock other people's worlds for millions of dollars and unlimited women, I don't want to call him and say, hey, I'm the 65-year-old guy who used to do the news. I've got some thoughts on your life. I let him do his thing.
Right.
But I have noticed now that guys... I grew up watching Branch, Stingley, all that stuff. People aren't launching anymore. And I've seen some entirely what you go to football for, which is quite hits, breastplate with. And I thought, all right, I guess it's a hard drive thing where you dial that down. And then a few years later, it's the new norm.
That's always been the conversation, at least from the management of the NFL, is that the players will adjust. The only problem is it's always on the defender to know where the guy is going to hit the crouch position, the crash position, and sometimes it's on them.
Not a perfect system, but I must say for the first time, I think I always expect people to concede when they've missed the point. I think I missed the point a little. I do think that it can't happen immediately, and that zone between getting it right or getting it the old way, I sometimes get impetuous and cranky. I'm a bit of an old get-off-my-lawn guy. But now that I've seen it a few years, I start to see the wisdom of just people not thinking about going high at all, knowing they have to go into the breadbasket. But the stuff that's happened to Clay Matthews is still maddening. I mean, geez,
oh, gosh. That earlier on this season was...
I think they sent out a directive. See, that's the thing now. Everybody's taping everybody else. I don't know how they get it out now, but I assume it's like Al Davis, Locasell, and Trask. They have to find somebody who's close to... You know what I mean?
Locasell is a nice old school reference.
They have to compartmentalize the hit. It's like, G.D. Spradlin looking at Martin Sheen and say, I want him to be dispatched with extreme prejudice.
Exactly.
So I think the NFL, they can't come right out and say, listen, we've got to loosen that rule up a little. We're being too whiny.
There's no doubt a phone call was made.
Yeah, something in-house where they go, listen, we're taking away from what our people watch our thing for.
Absolutely.
What Matthews did, if you watch Matthews, if he's eventually put into the Hall of Fame or the 100 greatest players of the decade, they'll show clips that are now penalties. It's like I watch Dick Knight Train Lane, 9th rated player, I think, on the NFL Network of all time, and I look at him and go, Dick Knight Train Lane couldn't play now. Every week I'd watch him being in the fine protocol or whatever. And back then, though, you look at Bednarik, Splat Lambert. I mean, listen, took me a while to get used to it. It's the new game. It's allowed me to watch more. I don't get all of it, but I do get more of it.
Dennis Miller here on the Rich Eisen Show. Did you meet Al Davis when you were doing Monday night? Did you ever cross paths with him?
And he was a little...
ornery?
Yeah, listen, you don't. I didn't meet Rickles to have him be a love fest. You know, you want him to tear you a new one, and
Sure.
you want Al to be indifferent to you. So,
So he gave you
yeah,
what
it's
you
not
wanted?
like I meet Al Davis, and all of a sudden he comes out and he's Sandy Duncan. You know, he's Al Davis. He could care about you. He's sitting there in a Kevlar suit, like Tony Roberts and Eddie Hall. You know, putting the visor down. I don't know what the whole deal's about. I do know this: when you're turning on a cat like Marcus Allen, you've lost your gourd a little. I mean, Marcus Allen was the quintessential gamer, man. Nobody more clever at the end. Nobody picking up a blitzing backer. Nobody a run catch specialist, and nobody more of a raider.
Right.
And when Al Davis turned on him, I thought, brother, that's like one of those guys who you can tell defines himself through the wake in his, the flotsam and jetsam in his wake.
Right.
And Marcus Allen was a man and a great player for that organization. For him to sit him for a couple of years, it broke my heart.
So when you were doing Monday Night Football 2 years, who impressed you most that you met? Where you thought,
Al. Al's a
Michaels.
freaking genius.
Al Michaels is.
I got a great story. You'll have to bleep it like you did that joke.
Oh, well, we are live, but if you could just...
it is?
Yeah, we are.
I'll do the bleep then. I'll say
Okay.
bleep instead of the
Sounds
word.
good.
I don't want to put anybody over the brink here. I know. We live in
Dennis.
the most indelicate society,
I
but if
know,
somebody
Dennis.
uses the
I
F-bomb,
think-
they're going to dive off a cliff. All right, so everything else is absolutely crazy.
I would
in the
love to
world.
do a show
But
where
God
you could
forbid
do it.
You say
Trust
it's
me.
effing crazy. That's the problem. Everything else is nuts except the language. Okay, so we're in the booth. Somebody gets their ankle hurt. They're wrapping it in gauze bandages.
Mm-hmm.
And Al's a genius. He's like that cat on the Sullivan Show, spinning the plates.
Yeah, right, sure.
He's kicking it to the debut on the network, and then he takes it over to the owner's store. He's got salary cap. He calls the play, throws it to Fauci for the telestrator,
Mm-hmm.
throw it to me for the weird rejoinder, regather it for the next hike. And I'm sitting there going, guy's a genius. But the only thing is, Al, you could make him laugh, and then he'd get thrown off. He couldn't gather himself. And my arcane references really made him laugh. So I remember one night we were watching this game, this guy's getting his ankle wrapped, and I say to Al on the air, I say, Bino, and I used to call him Venus, and they made me stop because they thought I was saying penis. And I just said penis, don't kill
It's
yourself.
okay. You said it twice. It's fine.
I said Venus, and I get a note from Tagliabue or something. Are you calling him penis? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm calling Al Michael penis. But so I can't call him Venus anymore. So I call Bino, and then they're saying, is that the fart medication? Oh, for God's sake, leave me alone. So I go, Al, I haven't seen that much fabric used since the environmental artist Christo wrapped the Pont-Neuf Bridge in Paris. And Al hits his sneeze button, which cuts his voice out to the home viewer. And he looks at me and goes, what the blank are you talking about? Olmeyer is down in the truck, and he fancies himself an art aficionado. I actually hear Olmeyer say, no, Al, Christo, environmental artist, solid reference, 3rd and 6, boys. Let's go.
Yeah. By the way, I have been to I was, may rest in peace, Don Omar. I was at an art gallery where all of his art was in the world. So I was in the room. So he gave the blue check mark
He was a
right
tough jarhead, man.
I bet. I know that.
But he was funny in the room. I mean, when you'd get like behind closed doors and just talk,
Smokey
God,
Don.
he made me like, he'd have a Smick, some Skippy Crunchy, a Pepsi. You'd be thinking this guy is.
And the thing with Al too is that they now have in the booth with NBC or part of their broadcast Terry McAuley, former NFL ref, to give an explanation as to why.
That's a
call
great
was
trend.
What I'm saying is that's Al knows the rule book perhaps better than most refs. That's why he's as great as he is he can call, as you say, he's got all those dishes in the air. He can.
I emailed
everything.
Al during the end of the game because Chris Collinsworth, who seems like a sweet guy, and he's obviously a great announcer. I'm not being,
Oh, okay.
But he was saying. He was talking about, I think Jason Garrett, if he was fired, or his phone would be ringing off the hook, doing the St. Chris thing. And Al goes, really? You think that? I don't know if I think that. So he's still on the air. I tweet Al and I say, good for you, Al. I wouldn't trust, who were you talking about? I wouldn't trust, it was not Jason Garrett. It was the guy who took the job, Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels, yes.
That's what it was. Sorry.
I remember this past week we say
McDaniels
McDaniels would be offered another
Sorry,
job.
I did the Garrett thing wrong.
That's
and
right.
Al said, really? You think he'd get offered another
heard
job?
that,
I
yes.
could tell Al was bridling. So I emailed him. I said, good for you, Al. I wouldn't trust Josh McDaniels with my place in line at Epcot. And He gets off the air 1 minute later. I just told our spotter that. He's laughing hysterically. So, like I said, Al's got a 7th plate in the air. He can gather it.
Oh, man. Fantastic. So the Comedy Dynamics comedy special, Dennis Miller, Fake News, Real Jokes. You shot it in Tennessee.
Knoxville,
Tennessee.
Chattanooga was booked.
Right.
I work better in Middle America now. I find it's less strident than the coast.
Do you enjoy the live audience? Do you like the live audience stuff, Dennis?
Left to my own devices, I'm John Hurt in that movie where he never touches foot on ground. He just cruises around. You remember that great science fiction movie where he has a plane he lives in?
Okay.
That's what I do all day.
Right.
That being said, if I want to go out and tell my jokes, you got to go out and, be Johnny Appleseed, man.
Right.
So, yeah, I kind of like it, but I'm not, I don't have these stories like when I was in puberty, I did Hell's a Poppin' in the family rec room. It's not like I'm a natural at it.
Right. Okay. And then you're going on the Adorable, Deplorable tour.
With Mark Stein. Do you know that cat?
I do not know
He's
Mark
pretty
Stein.
brilliant. You should Google him. He's a political commentator, but he's also a great raconteur, funny guy. We're going to go out and try to do a few evenings together of a little Q&A, a little recounting, but a super smart cat.
Okay. In February, you'll be in Reading, PA, in Syracuse, New York, Rochester, New York, Wilkes-Barre, PA, in early March right there.
That's our Rust Belt tour.
That's your Rust Belt tour.
Going out there and doing all the Marv Levy venues.
Okay. So I've got Michael Douglas on the show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you got a good story?
Yeah,
from
I had the best
Disclosure,
acting
right?
thing I ever did,
Okay.
or the best acting note I ever got.
Okay.
I'm doing Disclosure, and I had been in a few films, but this was Barry Levinson, Donald Sutherland, Michael Douglas. Michael's so cool. I go out and we're doing our first scene. And I'm just meeting Michael. I said, "Listen, do you think when you act? What's your swing thought?" It's like I'm doing it that way. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, "Don't get screwed up with that." He's in this movie. He's what? We're friends, right? Office friends. He's a make me laugh and get to the pertinent information. But just think, make me laugh. Such a great note. Because then I thought, okay, just vibe with the guy. Try to make him laugh like you would in an office situation with a workmate, and then tag on the information. I was thinking all about how do I deliver this information? And it's all about misdirecting yourself. It's better when you're not looking at what you're doing. I can see that self-consciousness is the ruination of good acting. And that was a good note from Michael. And
no kidding. So did you ad-lib some of those lines? Is that what you're saying?
I ad-libbed all the stuff leading up to sort of the pertinent part. But before that, it would be me looking at him as he has confessed earlier that he and Demi Moore have had an office affair. And, just saying, instead of saying, you know her, saying, really, you're hitting that. And like... And then that makes him laugh because that's unexpected. And then you can deliver the next part of it. But I would say that's the best lesson I've ever had about acting is pay less attention to you cannot be self-conscious about it.
Right.
And he's the least self-conscious cat I know. I'm telling you. I've seen him in things. I remember we were eating one night in a Mediterranean restaurant. And you know how the lady comes up the belly dancer and she wants you to dance with her. And I'm completely frozen up. I turn into the town elders from Footloose. I can't even think about it. Michael's up. He's Gordon Gekko. Bam, bam. I'm thinking he's just an easygoing cat who happens to be world famous, and he's not affected.
Yeah, I'm excited to have him here tomorrow. So, are you watching tonight's game? You going to watch the Steelers
big one
game?
tonight.
So you'll be settled in watching.
I think I will. This is a good one. I come from Pittsburgh, and we've got. Cam Newton is in his groove, and he's starting to grow on me. I didn't get some of it early. I'm starting to see that whether you like it or not, you don't quite get the next generation like you should as you get older. I always fancied myself as a reasonably, I read a lot, I try to stay in touch, but I thought I'm becoming the cranky guy.
Right.
So now that I watch Cam and I realize, like I was watching the other day with my son, I love my son dearly, and I think he's one of the wisest men I've ever met. And the guy pulled the thing up, and he went for the phone. And immediately I'm over there like Archie. Oh, damn these kids! And he said, "Dad, listen up. It's a whole new world." He's doing an homage to Joe Horn.
Yes.
And then I thought, oh, that's right. He did that years ago. And he says he's got a flip phone. I didn't even notice that. I just went to the blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And I thought, man, it happens and you're not even aware of it, that you have to say this is not your era.
Right.
This is a new era. And that is not as big a misstep as you think it is.
Well, I had the similar reaction, and I knew he was paying homage to Joe Horn at that point in time, because you're taking on a Rams team, you're giving them half a field down 2 scores with 4 minutes to go, with 2 timeouts and a 2-minute warning left. That's exactly what I thought. But then I had one of their players, one of his teammates, Cameron Jordan from the defensive line, one of the best pass rushers in the league. I had him on 2 days ago, and he said that the team loved it.
Yeah.
Team loved it. Nobody was sitting there saying what. Like the coach, Sean Payton, kind of barked at him a little bit.
Well, there's been a
loved it.
tectonic, seismic shift in the rubric of the culture when you can look me straight in the face with no irony and say, I knew it was a Joe Horn homage. I don't know that might as well be as pronounced as AD in BC right now.
I know. But it's true, though.
Of course, this is Joe. You can now, due to social media, you can go through the entire movie A Star is Born in one day. You can put up a tweet at 8 a.m. You can become famous off it by 10. You can be decried by it by noon. You can hire a publicist at dusk to get you out of it. And you can supplicate yourself and grovel, and at 9 that night, you're back on the A team. It's amazing.
What does it mean, then, that it's my job to know that it's a Joe Horn homage, that I'm doing my job appropriately?
There are worse jobs, brother. You could be out here moving these orange cones around.
Right here in the on the offset of Heat. Check out Fake News, Real Jokes right now on the Comedy Dynamics platform. It's on Amazon, iTunes, Steam, Google Play, and several other platforms. At Dennis DMZ on Twitter to find out more information. Good to see you, sir.
I'm so happy for you. You're one of the most decent men I've met.
Thank you.
I know you got your wife.
Yeah.
It's a major chord, baby.
Thanks, pal.
And you deserve it. You're a good cat.
Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate you saying that. At Dennis DMZ on Twitter again. We'll set up the rest of tomorrow's show. Big show tomorrow, and take on some more phone calls before we close up shop.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.